Good morning to you and welcome to WRTV's special coverage as we remember the life and the legacy of Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith, a young man who's at the age of 6 told his kindergarten teacher that he wanted to be a police officer, and he lived the motto of state police: integrity, service, and professionalism.
I'm Lauren Casey along with Rafael Sanchez. Something we've had really the pleasure of doing the last 7-8 days. These events are never easy, but we've been able to talk to family and friends of Trooper Smith. We know he's a hero in the uniform. He puts that on every day. He goes out and protects and serves our community. We've learned so much about the man Aaron was out of uniform, the guy who his friends say would just show up anytime anyone needed anything, even people, strangers he doesn't even know. So many stories of that we've heard, we've had the pleasure of hearing in the last week. Was an incredible man.
And of course, this becomes somewhat personal for us. We are both, Lauren and I, Johnson County residents, and Trooper Smith lived in the city of Franklin in Johnson County. He went to high school at Whiteland High School. He was a warrior. He went to ISU. Of course, he received his aviation degree, and then of course became a state police trooper. His wife, the softball coach at Whiteland High School. And because Lauren and I are both Johnson County residents, we sort of know the family as well, because they are our neighbors. So this is somewhat personal on a day that we will cover this very professionally. As you can see, there's some of the images of Trooper Smith as he was known to just go around, and if someone were to ask him, can you go to career day? Yes, I'll go to career day. His beautiful wife, Megan, you see there, she brought joy to his life and he to her. They were married in Minnesota. In front of some Belgian horses. He proposed to her. It was a beautiful wedding. His best man was his oldest brother, Jeremy, and it was a festive day on that day, a day that they will not forget. As we come back live to here in Studio A, you can see that this will now all play out this morning here at the Emmanuel Church, one of the biggest churches in Johnson County. We'll hear from the governor and the state police superintendent. We'll hear from pastors and family friends. We will also see the procession of police officers from around the country who have come together to honor a fellow brother in blue and to embrace the family at a point where they are in the middle of heartbreak.
And what we're looking at, Rafael, right now is sort of inside the sanctuary, inside the auditorium there at Emmanuel Church on Stones Crossing Road. One of, as you mentioned, one of the biggest churches in the Center Grove community in terms of people who go there. And so they can fit several hundred people inside here. On the left side of your screen is where their seated family. They just sat down a few moments ago. Everyone stood as they were escorted inside. And then the right side of your screen right now that you're looking, several hundred, we know, police officers, law enforcement from not only around our state, but around the country being filed in here, paying their respects to Trooper Smith. So a lot of people here, and what you can't see on the screen, Rafael, is there's a whole balcony behind where the cameras are, where they can fit more people, hundreds they said they can fit in their lobby for overflow. They're expecting that to be full today. And we know from our crews who are already out there right now talking to people that there were just lines of traffic, people trying to pull in starting before 9 o'clock this morning to get here today. He has so many people behind him, and I hope that the family, we know this is such a difficult day for them that we can't even imagine. We hope they look around and take a moment and just see the support from this community in central Indiana, in Johnson County, and across the country.
I've spoken to his dad, Gary. Gary was a member of the Indianapolis Police Department and retired from Trafalgar Police Department in Johnson County. I've spoken also to his brother, Jeremy, his eldest brother. And I can tell you that they want you at home to know that they are so thankful for the support, the cards, the messages, the things on Facebook, and however you've communicated with them, they are thankful. The family did make a public appearance this past Monday during the 4th of July celebration down in Franklin where the couple lives. They did not speak, but there were hundreds upon hundreds of people who joined the family in a moment of silence, and it was touching. The family in tears, I could see them. I was the MC of the event. But they were so thankful that their community, that their neighbors, that the people that they love, that the people that they shop with and talk with and live with were there for them. And that's what they need in the next couple of days. And so they've not spoken to the media per se. They have sent us statements here at WRTV. They've shared some pictures and images, but they just need to heal. And I think this family will be able to heal, Lauren, because they love each other. And when I spoke to them, they tell me that they love loud. When the brothers get together, there are 4 brothers, you know, beyond Jeremy, there's Anthony and Chad and their sister Hope. And when the brothers get together, it is truly a band of brothers. Those brothers, hey, when they meet each other, when they say hello and goodbye, every time they hug, they kiss, and every time they say, I love you. In fact, Gary, his dad, who spoke, let's go live now to the church.
Guard. I invite you to join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with heavy hearts for the family and friends grieving from the loss of Aaron N. Smith, dedicated to serving our community as an Indiana State Trooper and a member of the Indiana Army National Guard. All of us here today and our communities are grateful for the sacrifice and service that Aaron gave, the impact that he had on so many lives through the different roles that he lived. There are no human answers to satisfy or soothe the agonizing words of grief, anger, and sorrow. Only you can, Lord. Psalm 147 assures us that he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And Psalm 34 confirms the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. Lord, we pray over the Smith family for comfort, peace, strength, and compassion during this difficult time. May they find their strength in you, O Lord, and in knowing that Aaron was an example of how we are to serve others and help those who are in need. Lord, grant those who are suffering solace throughout these days of reflection and honor the life of our beloved hero. For all that law enforcement personnel have sacrificed to serve others, we thank you for the brave men and women whose work will never be forgotten. Father, we ask that this service be a reflection of who you are and how you are with us in our grief. Draw us into your embrace. Fill us with your peace that passes all understanding. May we all open our eyes to seek you, the only source of relief from our sorrow and anguish. Let us feel your presence here today. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
You may be seated. Indiana State Trooper Aaron N. Smith, age 33, of Franklin, Indiana, passed away Wednesday, June 28th, 2023, in Plainfield, Indiana, following a life of dedication and service to his friends, his family, his community, his state, and our country. Aaron was born on January 9th, 1990, in Franklin, Indiana. He was a graduate in 2008 from the Whiteland Community High School, where he wrestled and played football. Aaron had held a private pilot's license, and he studied aviation management, graduating from Indiana State University in Terre Haute, Indiana in 2014. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. He was a graduate of the 78th Indiana State Police Recruit Academy. He was a member of the Indiana State Police Alliance. Aaron served the community as an Indiana State Trooper for nearly 5 years and is also part of the State Police Crash Reconstruction Team. He had recently been awarded 2 life-saving awards for his heroism. He proudly served in the Indiana National Guard since 2011, where he achieved the rank of sergeant. He currently served as a utilities equipment repairer with the 38th Infantry Division, 38th Sustainment Brigade, 190th Transportation Battalion, 1638th Transportation Company. Aaron had earned the following military awards: the Army Achievement Award, Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Non-Commissioned Officer Development Ribbon, and the Army Service Ribbon. He was a member of this church right here, Emmanuel Church of Greenwood campus, where he and his wife Megan served in the children's ministry. He and Megan also were an active part of the CGX CrossFit community in Bargersville, Indiana. Aaron also enjoyed smoking a good brisket, flying drones, hunting, spending time with his friends and family. Aaron married his wife Megan on July 30th, 2016 in Morgantown, Indiana. She survives along with their fur babies, Paisley Grace and Oakley Rose. Also surviving are Aaron's mother, Patricia of Bargersville, his father Gary and Cindy of Franklin, Indiana, his brothers Jeremy of Greenwood, Frank and Amber of White Pigeon, Michigan, Chad and Taylor of Shelbyville, Indiana, his sister Grace of Franklin, Indiana, his maternal grandparents Jean and Carolyn of Greenwood, Indiana, his father-in-law and mother-in-law Douglas and Lynn of Redwood Falls, Minnesota, his sisters-in-law Ashley of Rochester, Minnesota, Nicole of Castleton, North Dakota, his grandmother-in-law Dolores also of Redwood Falls, Minnesota. And is also survived by several loving aunts, uncles, and cousins. He's preceded in death by his paternal grandparents, Robert and Evelyn, and maternal grandfather, Sylvester, and grandmother, Bonnie, and his maternal grandmother-in-law, Fern. Pastor Cody Johnson of Emmanuel Church will conduct the service today, Friday, July 7th, 2023 at 11 a.m. at the Greenwood campus of Emmanuel Church, located right here at 1640 West Stones Crossing Road in Greenwood, Indiana. Services will be broadcast live on all Indianapolis television media networks, live streamed on their networks. Yesterday, countless friends and family came to call and visit Aaron and his family right here from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial with honors will follow the service at Crown Hill Cemetery and the Heroes of Public Safety section. Memorial contributions to support Aaron's family can be made at any Indiana Credit Union branch. Checks may be mailed to the Fallen Heroes Foundation office. You can pay by PayPal or Venmo. Checks may be made payable to the Indiana Fallen Heroes Foundation, and you can visit their website for more information at indianafallen.org. Aaron's services are being conducted by the Sports Family Community Mortuary and Memorial Center from Franklin, Indiana.
If you are willing to sing with us. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, promised good to me. His word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine, but God who called me here below will be forever mine, will be forever mine, and you are forever mine.
The good Lord has indeed promised Aaron good. And we are not here, I certainly am not here just to give one of our forever finest passing thanks. Trooper Smith earned our eternal gratitude. He earned all that we have to give. Learning about Aaron's upbringing, he seemed to be one of us, but there was just something extra special. And then when he took that oath, indeed when he took both of those oaths, he became one of you who stiffened and strengthened that thin blue line. And now, heaven no longer waits your Hoosier hero. Because although he has fallen, I know with 100% certainty he has risen. He is with his Creator where the still waters run. For most of my life, I have wondered, and in this current job, I have struggled to comprehend how men and women like Aaron and his brothers and sisters in arms constantly, his life story, constantly putting more on his plate. I mean, the plate had to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Constantly seeking in new ways to serve. And with that, more dangerous ways to serve, knowing exactly what he signed up for, knowing what those urgent calls meant. And yet, he didn't hesitate for one split second. And so when Superintendent Carter informed us of Aaron's final act of heroism, Janet and I, like you, stopped and we dropped and we prayed for this family and for strength. In this period of such grief and heartache that has shocked and shaken even our state at its very moral core. As the chaplain said, no humanly words can adequately provide the needed and necessary comfort to get through a time like this. But to Aaron's beautiful and beloved bride, Megan, and to the entire family, on behalf of the state, we are forever grateful and we are forever indebted, and we offer you our deepest condolences. Trooper Smith's passing is a stinging reminder of all the risks those who wear the uniform are willing and even wantingly making for us every minute of the day. Sprinting toward danger is not natural for most. In fact, it's reflexive to pull back or to seek inside a protective shell. But it's in the very DNA of our incredible Indiana State Police officers and all of their brethren in public safety and law enforcement to protect and to serve and to move forward into the fray where it is unraveling, where seconds save and take lives. It's why I plead that we never take for granted the kind of humble Hoosier heroism Aaron displayed, not just that day, time and time again. I plead that we never stop thanking those here with us today and those who aren't, who do right in the face of those who do wrong. And that we never forget the extraordinary life Aaron led, full of days that I've come to learn that he just thought were ordinary, that he was just doing his job, just serving. In my mind, there was nothing ordinary about Aaron Smith, this Franklin, Indiana son and this Whiteland High School athlete who possessed a lifelong love for his community, whether it was here or back in Minnesota. His love for his neighbors. He lived out Scripture. There was nothing ordinary about the oaths that he took. He lived out the meaning of those words. There was nothing ordinary about the multiple uniforms he wore, whether it was his church armor, whether it was his state police uniform, or the guard. His life story, I told his oldest brother, is like a movie. It reads as one of those rare individuals who constantly is seeking and seizing an opportunity to serve more. My friends, this man enlisted in the Indiana National Guard at age 21, more than proving that Army Sergeant Smith was always ready, always there, proudly serving his neighbors for the last 11 years, but he had more to give. 5 years ago, we were blessed when he joined the elite ranks of the Indiana State Police. And just last year, as you heard, I hope it wasn't glossed over, on 2 separate occasions, less than a month apart, this guardian angel in blue appeared at the exact moment he was needed. I don't think that's coincidence. He saved both of their lives. And for that, as you heard, he was decorated, of course, with 2 life-saving awards just a few months ago. He wasn't seeking that recognition. But even after it, the already makings of a legacy, he didn't consider himself a hero. In part because Megan and Aaron didn't define service as being on duty or in uniform. I've understood, as I've learned more, that Megan and Aaron, like so many of our uniformed band of brothers and sisters, were a dynamic duo, a team, devoting their talents in so many ways and in so many places, and here at the children's ministry and back in Minnesota at the children's ministry. Lending a helping hand with the recovery and rebuilding efforts from the debris and the damage caused by these latest 2 tornadoes here in Johnson County. He said to someone then, why wouldn't we be here? When they showed up to help, why wouldn't we be here? He didn't have to be on shift until later that night. Trooper Aaron Smith will forever embody the very definition of the best among us, achieving the highest station any Hoosier could ever obtain on foreign or domestic soil. And while honoring his incredible life is what unites us here today, the prayers across our state and beyond, far beyond our borders, shall not themselves cease, not today or in all the days to come. For his legacy will be carried out by his brothers and sisters in service, by all of us, with as much grace, amazing as it is, with as much grit, with as much training and tenacity as called for. His name and memory alone will inspire new recruits to answer this noble calling. So Megan and family, may the good Lord's touch, bless, and comfort you. May it bring you peace, ultimately. May it bring you strength. And I hope you feel the love of 6.8 million Hoosiers, at the least, who will walk with you, who will pray with you, just like here at your church family. And as we grieve your loss, our loss, may we also constantly be reminded of Aaron's joy, of his wit, of his humor. I'm not even going to tell you what his older brother described him as. But the bond that this family has, I hope we're reminded by his service. I don't know if St. Peter's needs help guarding that gate up there, but I guarantee you, Aaron has already offered to guard those pearly gates. I don't know what uniform he's going to pick to guard those pearly gates, but he's working. He's like, put me in. I got more boxes to check. And so for us, even in the depths of this dark valley, we know there is light, and we know where to look for it. And by walking in the footsteps of our Lord, that Aaron and Megan followed so faithfully under the cover of his light, we know goodbyes are never forever, and we know we shall be reunited once again. Godspeed, Brother Aaron.
My name is Aaron Jones. I'm a firefighter, a law enforcement chaplain, critical incident counselor, and most importantly, an extended family member. I got to know Aaron when he and Megan started dating and made trips to Minnesota to see Megan's family. Very quickly, I identified with Aaron. I was born in South Bend, and I have multiple generations in the Indy area. And Aaron became one of my lifelines as to what was happening here. And maybe, just maybe, we also connected because we both married into a family that has, well, let's just say strong-willed women. Am I right, Megan? We had some spirited family game times during holidays and family events, and Aaron learned how to take it in stride, didn't he? In some ways, that maybe prepared Aaron a bit for dealing with the public or his coworkers. In reality, though, family prepares us, whether it's bloodlines or not, for challenges we don't always recognize. It was always fun to see Aaron visit with my son-in-law, who's a state trooper in Minnesota, and my son, who's a detention center deputy. As a firefighter, I was outnumbered by law enforcement, and so I took the ribbing. It's okay, we have strong shoulders, and sometimes we'll even let you tell us when to go in. One of my last conversations I had with Aaron, he was trying to talk me into buying a Tesla. Yeah, he scrolled through his phone and he was showing me how cool the features were, the gas he was saving, and how sweet the ride was. Now, I'm not still convinced of that, but the road ahead isn't always what we planned. In the book of Joshua, we're told of the transition of leadership in Israel from Moses to Joshua. Time and again, two themes emerge in the book of Joshua: strength and courage. As God talks to Joshua, he commissions Joshua for the task ahead of him by stating in chapter 1, verse 9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." God commissions us for acts of heroism in moments that we don't specifically envision. He called Trooper Aaron Smith in those uncommon moments to be his voice and his presence when people needed him the most. And while we grieve and navigate a path that has dramatically changed, we also realize that we have the power and the presence of God with us. Megan asked if I would read a short poem that summarizes those who rise up when called. It states, "There are those heroes who walk among us, never looking for glory or praise. They don't seek recognition for their thoughtful and caring ways, living lives of deep commitment, providing for those they hold dear, steadfast with a quiet strength through times of laughter and tears. You are a person like that to me, the most selfless man by far, and I'd like to thank you for being the hero that you are. Thank you, Trooper Aaron Smith."
I am Major General Dale Lyles, the Adjutant General for the Indiana National Guard. It is my utmost and humble honor to be here today to provide our condolences to Megan and her family, and to Aaron and his family, and to all of the loved ones, the families, and the social and the workers that provide the safety to all Hoosiers each and every day. There is a very distinct and unique sadness that accompanies the loss of a soldier. But this loss is made even more profound, as not only did Sergeant Smith swear an oath to protect and defend this country, but he swore a dual oath to protect and defend the citizens of this great state as a trooper in the Indiana State Police. So it is only fitting that we are honoring a hero who died not only in the cause of protecting the citizens of Indiana, but a hero who died for all of the citizens of this great country. Both in the last week and in the coming days, weeks, and difficult months that lie ahead, we will all feel the deep pain associated with the hasty loss of a loved one. And in this suffering, we will look for hard-to-find answers to questions like why. Why did this tragedy occur? Moreover, we will want to know, was it worth it? And was all this really necessary? We can find the answer to the why question in realizing that we must trust that we are serving a loving God and that He is in charge. And His will for our lives rests in His absolute authority and His sovereignty over all things. And to answer the question, was it worth it? We must take comfort and reassurance in knowing that His loss occurred for the greater good of humanity. You see, the price of living in a rules-based, free, and democratic society is high, especially for the family and loved ones of those who have given their lives for this purpose. but it is a price that must be paid to sustain the safety and well-being of our state and nation. To live in a rules-based, free and democratic society, we must have men and women like Staff Sergeant Smith, who have an eternal alarm that sounds and triggers them to run towards danger and to fight with an extraordinary measure of grit and determination to protect us from those seeking to do us harm. More men and women with a like-mindedness willing to raise their right hand and to swear an oath to protect and defend us from the tyranny and evil that would otherwise destroy our very way of living. A country's sovereignty is protected not by its natural borders, but rather by men and women like Staff Sergeant Smith, who voluntarily bear arms to advance the cause of freedom, prosperity, and democracy. When we grieve the loss of Staff Sergeant Smith and ask, was it worth it? We must simultaneously take a deep and meaningful look around us and see the environment. See the families safely enjoying their time together at a neighborhood park with their children without fear or threat of violence. Families worshiping freely at a church of their choosing without fear of retribution. Notice the very freedom and prosperity that we all enjoy in this great state and this great country, and fully realize that these things exist because of the sacrifice of Staff Sergeant Aaron Smith, and that his sacrifice allows us to prosper and live freely in a democratic values society. As we say goodbye to Staff Sergeant Smith, let us remember that his legacy endures through the service and the values he upheld. Let his memory serve as a reminder of the high price and the cost of defending our security, freedom, and the greater cause of a better world. Let us strive to honor his sacrifice through a renewed appreciation for the liberties we enjoy and by collectively working towards a better world. In closing, let us keep Sergeant Smith and his family in our thoughts and our prayers. May we be strengthened by knowing that his sacrifice will never be forgotten and that we will live in a better world because of him. Rest in peace, Sergeant Smith. Every single citizen of Indiana, and for that matter, every single person living in America owes you their freedom. May God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless this state and country.
My name is Christopher Marlin, and Aaron and I were cousins, and we grew up together. I'm going to read a few letters from friends and family that were written to him and about him, and I'm going to share some words of my own after that. This first one is from his uncle. My name is Tony Marlin, or as Aaron always calls me, Uncle Tony. I was blessed to watch Aaron grow up from a toddler into the great young man that he was. Isaiah 55:9 reads, "For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." I've clung to this verse for the past week. I, in my own human mind, cannot understand why this is happening or what the overall good is. I just have to remember his ways are higher than mine. The three words that come to mind when describing Aaron are humble, servant, hero. Many of you have heard about his 2 awards for the lives that he saved while on duty. I must be honest, if I was given such an award, I would have invited my family and friends to the ceremony, had it videoed, and then it probably would have found its way on Twitter. But not our humble hero, Aaron. We may not have known about it if my son had not accidentally found it on the internet. When we asked Aaron about it, he downplayed it and said, "I was just doing my job, being obedient." He also gave up his time recently after the storms and tornadoes that hit his hometown of Whiteland. He was one of the first people to go out and help those that he did not know, because that's what Aaron does. He was not only humble, but he was also a servant. As I have thought about Aaron's life and his service to his country and fellow human beings, it made me ask, how much more could have been done on earth for others if his life had lasted 80 or 90 years? How many more lives could he have saved? How much more time could he have volunteered to make other lives better? And then it hit me. I had asked that exact same question years ago when I was studying the life of another humble servant. This man did acts of kindness for others, oftentimes for those looked down on by society. He saved many lives and helped those who were sick. He did these things and did not want glory for himself. He could have exalted himself, but he chose to remain humble. As I studied more about this man, Jesus Christ, and his life, I read Philippians 2 that said he did not claim special privileges. Instead, he lived a selfless, obedient life and then died a selfless, obedient death, and the worst kind of death at that. There is only one perfect man, but Aaron followed that man closely. In John 15:13, Christ's words are, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." As I read about the life of Christ and think about the life that Aaron Smith lived, it makes me realize how well I think Aaron did on the call to become more like him. And I am confident that he has heard those precious words. "Well done, good and faithful servant." I'm going to miss you, Aaron. Uncle Tony. This next one is from Anthony Roberts, a friend that he served in the National Guard with. From graduating BLC together, then coming to the 1638th, I have had the honor to stand shoulder and shoulder with you, and it will be something I never forget. You were my partner in crime in the 1638th. You pushed me to become better and better. I'll never forget the nights together, like playing musical chairs, and me kicking the chair out on you so I could win. We fed off of each other to become better as a team. I was so excited to see you on your journey to become a warrant officer because you deserved it. You put your heart into everything that you did. You always wanted to help. From helping a soldier that was having a heat stroke to you stopping on the way to PHA to give a guy a ride to his house to get gas. It didn't matter. I learned so much from you. You gave me the best peer mentor I will ever have. I will never forget all the times we spent together. It tears me apart to know that we couldn't complete our goal together. I will reach that goal for you, but it will not be the same, knowing that you won't be standing shoulder to shoulder with me. RIH, brother, till Valhalla. This next letter is from John Hill, retired major in the Indiana State Police and a friend. Aaron and I first met through an introduction by his grandpa Marlin. Aaron called him Poppy, with whom I shared an airplane at the time. Barely a teenager, Aaron was enthusiastic about learning to fly and hoped to eventually obtain his pilot's license. Flying is serious business and demands carefully following instructions and taking responsibility of your actions. Even as a very young man, Aaron was displaying those important characteristics that would eventually prepare him for the roles in the National Guard and the Indiana State Police. There was only one thing that I did find somewhat annoying about Aaron at that time. He was actually flying and landing the plane better than I was, and I had been doing it for far longer. He would head off to college and further develop his flying skills and acquire a college education, then enlist in the National Guard. He worked hard in employment and mastered such things as driving heavy equipment and excavating. When I next saw him, he had developed into a disciplined young man, strengthened in body by the military, but more importantly, maturing in his faith, while forming life commitments in relationship. Megan, I first heard about you as someone who truly completed Aaron and a life partner and spouse. Aaron's family here in Greenwood all affirmed that you were a wonderful complement to each other, and your willingness to spend hours alongside Grandpa Marlin in the workshop certainly won his admiration. You and Aaron visited my wife and me in our home to discuss the possibility of joining the state police. We talked through the immense responsibility it would be to both you and Aaron, and how it could affect your marriage, your role in your community, and most importantly, how such a vocational decision would impact your faith in Christ. In listening to Aaron speak about his interest in serving others and wanting to make a difference in his community, I was particularly impressed with his demonstrated compassionate concern for others, while balanced with his strength of character and his commitment to integrity. When the two of you left our home that day, I told my wife, the Indiana State Police would be a richer community to have them join their ranks. My prayer for you and the entire Smith family is that you would experience the peace of God that passes human understanding. This next one is from Justin and Katie, Aaron and Megan's good friends here. I have many memories with Aaron. They're all ones that I'll be keeping with me for the remainder of my days, from random pictures to meaningful conversations. We would confide life's problems with each other and ask advice when we needed it. Nothing was off the table. It's hard to pick one and write about, but I think the one that means the most to me just happened days ago. After wrapping up a softball tournament for Darcy, Judy and I were headed home when she told me she left something at Megan and Aaron's house a few days prior. You see, Megan and Aaron had taken Judy and Betty to let them spend the night. Why would two grown adults want somebody else's kids to spend the night? That's just who they are. Moving on. At some point, there was a conversation of not using the upstairs toilet because it wasn't flushing. When Judy and I got there on Sunday afternoon, we were greeted with hugs and smiles. Aaron was showing me his new drone, and he was stoked to have it. Before we left, he looked at Judy and said, "Did you use the upstairs bathroom?" She remained quiet with a look of, "Oh, I just got caught." "Ha, I knew it was you," he said, with a giant smile on his face and a chuckle of laughter. He explained that he wasn't mad and that she could have just told him and he would have taken care of it right then. That part sticks with me because he was never mad about things that would drive me absolutely crazy. That's the part of Aaron I want to infect my life. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be more like that. Always happy, always smiling. Love you forever, Justin, Katie, Judy, Darcy, Betty, and Rosie. These next letters are from retired Lieutenant Brian Gable from the IMPD and his wife, Sergeant Jennifer Gable of the IMPD, and they're also friends from CrossFit. I had the privilege of first meeting Aaron at the CGX CrossFit, where I was immediately drawn to the sight of a trooper car parked in the parking lot. As I entered the gym, his distinguished demeanor and well-groomed haircut made it apparent that he was the trooper. I introduced myself, where I worked and what I was doing, and our bond was instant. We became workout companions, often attending the gym together at 4:30. Working for two different police agencies, we would often engage in lighthearted banter, poking fun at each other's respective agencies. Aaron possessed an unmatched level of selflessness, consistently showing genuine interest in my work and endeavors. As the coaches began their class promptly at 4:30, we would inevitably gravitate towards the corner of the gym, a place where Aaron preferred to hang and work out. We would find ourselves involved in conversation and goofing off in the corner while we were supposed to be exercising, talking about the differences between our organization and general police talk. Aaron had an uncanny ability to remember details of my life. He frequently reached out, inquiring about my progress, my upcoming retirement plans, and even my new job. His thoughtfulness and genuine concern about my well-being were evident in these gestures. He recently sent me a text right before I retired, checking in on me. We were in different roles with our different agencies, and I was able to still discuss things with Aaron because he understood the daily stress of my job. I felt comfortable sharing things with him that I could not share with other people. Aaron was always happy and engaging with his wife at the gym. You could see the love he had for her. Aaron was a true hero without hesitation and went into danger. I know he loved Jesus. It was evident in the way that he was raised by his loving parents. In these times of sorrow, it's important to remember that Aaron would not want us to be sad, but rather rejoice in his faith and be comforted in knowing that he is with his Savior, Jesus Christ. That was from retired Lieutenant Brian. This is from Jennifer. As the wife of a retired IMPD lieutenant, I too had the pleasure of working out with Aaron and his wife Megan. I often saw Aaron in the afternoon CrossFit class after working late shift hours. Aaron was an easy person to talk to, and we'd love to have what I like to call cop talk conversations. He talked about his passion for law enforcement, and he talked about Megan and his 2 dogs. I will miss those times walking into the gym and not seeing Aaron in his corner. I am grateful to have known him. Now it's my turn. The most famous sermon that's ever been given starts with this line: "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." It's a comment that Jesus is making about where humility is going to take you in his kingdom. Growing up, Aaron and then my little brother Johnny and I did all kinds of things together. Our favorite pastime, like any good millennial, was playing Nintendo 64. Specifically, we loved playing a game called Cruisin' the World. It was a racing game where 2 of us would race against 6 computer-generated opponents. And instead of us trying to get 2nd and 5th or 3rd and 4th, we set our goal that one of us, no matter what, each race would get first. So we developed a strategy, we honed it from there, and what it was one of us would focus on racing fast and clean, while the other one of us guarded him. Now, guarding consisted of bumping, tailgating, cutting off, really anything was on the table for that second racer. Do you want to guess which one Aaron was? See, Aaron didn't care if he got 2nd or if he got 8th, as long as we won. From an early age, he felt most comfortable behind the wheel, chasing bad guys so the good guys could arrive safely. From an early age, others winning was the real win for Aaron. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There were moments in these games when sibling rivalry would flare up, and I would start to do what I did at home, which was pick on my little brother, but not at Aaron's house. Although I was older by 6 months, I was neither bigger nor stronger than Aaron. And every time, Aaron would defend his little cousin, because Aaron defended the marginalized. As a child, this was incredibly annoying. And as an adult, it depicts the kind of man that he would later become and the kind of career that he would choose. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. A few days ago, I was on the phone with Megan. We were talking about all of the things. I was seeing so many articles and videos online about Aaron. And I was beaming with pride at how much notoriety he is getting because he deserved it. And then Megan said something to me that immediately after we hung up, I wrote down because I thought it summarized their marriage in a sentence. She said, "I know, and Aaron wouldn't want any of this. So I just keep blowing it up more and more." That was Aaron and Megan. Deep love and deep respect that could not be shaken, covered with a thin veneer of brother-sister banter. And of course, she's right. Aaron wouldn't have wanted that, because that was Aaron. Not wanting any spotlight or attention, but just quiet commitment to doing what was right. And so what started and is still an instruction for all of us in this room is now proudly a reality for my cousin. Blessed is the poor, humble, gentle, selfless spirit of Aaron, for the kingdom of heaven is now his.
I'm going to make everybody a little bit crazy here, but I'm going to shockingly go off script for just a second. I love this agency. I love its people. I love your spirit and your desire to always step up. I've had so many incredible opportunities in my lifetime, but none more special than to represent you. I stand here before you without the right words. It was just 118 days ago. We were in Auburn, Indiana, honoring the life of Trooper James Bailey, which seems like just last week. Now today, here we are, to honor a beautiful and incredible life of Trooper Aaron Smith. While Aaron began his state police journey in 2018, it seems much longer ago than that, at least to me. You see, Aaron had a strong presence, a perpetual drive to succeed, and a way of communicating which distinguished him in a very unique way. I even learned some more about that skill today. A couple years into his ISP career, Aaron decided to leave our ranks and pursue an opportunity in the private sector. I was not about to let him go without sitting with me to discuss why he had chosen to leave the ISP, so I did. He sat with me and explained his desire to be with his wife, Megan. Shockingly, a stable schedule. More time at home and an opportunity to join a family business. Within just a few minutes of my discussion with Aaron, I knew two things. One, there was no way I was going to be able to talk him out of this decision to leave. Second, he'll ask to come back. I would look forward to and gladly approve that request when it did. You see, there was something about him that stood out. It made him special. And it was so obvious to me that he cared so deeply about others. Aaron left the ISP on October the 21st, 2021. And Tony, I'm sorry, but sure enough, 4 months later, I received a letter from him requesting to return and become a trooper again. Needless to say, I was thrilled, as were Aaron's command. His peers, community members. I sat with Aaron and Megan to again talk about why he wanted to return. And every question I asked was rhetorical. And they knocked it out of the park. Both Aaron and Megan were so committed to not only the ISP, but to the service of others. And it was very apparent that they were both all in. Megan, I oftentimes wish I had a crystal ball. In this most complicated life that seems to be filled with unending sadness and grief. Sorry. Last Wednesday, June 28th, in the evening hours, Trooper Aaron Smith was intentionally struck and killed. Like so many of you, I remember where I was when I yet again received that first phone call from Colonel French. Again, the trip to the hospital was brutal. Please bear with me for just a couple minutes because the events over the course of the next several hours had a profound, beautiful effect on me, my wife Carol and daughter Leanne, and I know many of you that are certainly worthy of being told. When I arrived at the Sally Port at Eskenazi Hospital, there was a flurry of activity. Troopers, great IMPD officers, security personnel were everywhere. I could see and feel the sadness in their eyes, and many had just an empty stare that all of us know. We established a family area so the family could have space and time they would need as they began to arrive. I was told that Megan was arriving with Jonathan near the Sally Port. As I exited the doors of the ER, I greeted Megan as she was overcome with emotion, unimaginable sadness, and confusion. Soon after, Gary, Cynthia, Hope, Taylor, and Chad arrived. Once Patty, Jeremy, and the other brothers arrived, Tony, arrived in the private room, there was a point in time when the family shifted their focus to us, to you. I will never be able to properly articulate what I witnessed, but it was something I had never experienced before. My dear friend, Rick Snyder, was in the room with me and with his family the entire evening. And we both mentioned each other on multiple occasions that what was happening was unbelievable. We watched this family with a depth of faith that I can't physically understand, emotionally understand. I just can't. We took the family down to see Aaron in the ER in groups. Every single time a prayer was said, and every single time they included us. Can't tell you what that meant. It was one of the most beautiful yet gut-wrenching experiences of my lifetime. Megan even made the comment that she knows where Aaron is. She does not even think he would want to come back. She does not think he would want to come back because he is now in the presence of God. I don't know about you, but I cannot imagine my faith being that strong. I wish I could. Especially at that time and under those circumstances. Because of you, I watched and I listened, and I know it's possible. Megan, you and your entire family have inspired us and offered us hope through faith by the way you live your life. We're eternally grateful. Patty. Our phone call and your text to Carol and I, checking on us over the weekend, is another example that kindness and faith are cornerstones of your life. You'll never be able to explain to the entire family. You're now inextricably connected to us, whether you like it or not. And while we might be apart through distance or time, we will never abandon us in. My family and I, along with many other troopers, were invited to participate in the 4th festivities in the city of Franklin last Monday night with the Smith and Bunting families. What an amazing experience it was to see the entire community surround such a special family while recognizing the service and sacrifice of Aaron Smith. I have said this hundreds of times, but I am so blessed to be a part of the Indiana State Police. In times of unspeakable sadness, you step up and you step into a crisis with empathy, compassion, and without fear of showing your own emotions. I'm glad you know you're human. You do what must be done without question and with absolute and unapologetic purpose. And while we tend to fuss with each other when things are good, there is no better group of public servants in times of crisis. Please never doubt your value, no matter how you contribute. The night Aaron was killed, 2 troopers and 2 civilian interns witnessed firsthand the intentional act that took Aaron's life. Our dispatchers watched in horror as they witnessed the outcome on traffic cameras. To the dozens of troopers, detectives, CSIs, IMPD officers, medical personnel on scene and at Eskenazi were just tremendous. All the other agencies that responded to help in any way they could, please accept this family's thanks. If you are hearing my message today, whether an employee, a family member, or a friend, please never hesitate to reach out for help or guidance. Remember, what you do is not normal, so I hope you will lean on others in these very difficult times. Megan and the entire family, as the page is turned in this chapter of Aaron's life, you are all owed a debt of sincere gratitude for sharing him with us. There have now been 49 members of the Indiana State Police that have died or been killed in the line of duty. The surviving family members of those that remain are the only ones who truly understand your grief. As time goes by, please lean on them. They will be here for you always, and they can help you along the way. Many of them are even here today. May you all find solace in knowing that Aaron has now found and is experiencing eternal rest in the presence of God. He will watch over you and be with you in ways that we cannot humanly understand. May we all continue to perpetuate our memories of Aaron until our final day when we see him again.
Don't be mad if I cry. It just hurts so bad sometimes. 'Cause every day it's sinking in, and I have to say goodbye all over again. You know, I bet it feels good to have the weight of the world off your shoulders now. I'm dreaming of the day when I'm finally there with you. Save a place for me. Save a place for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. Save a place for me. Save some grace for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. La da da, la da da, la da 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 da. And I have asked the questions why, but I guess the answer's for another time. So instead I'll pray with every tear, and I'm thankful for the time I had you here. So just save a place for me. Save a place for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. Save a place for me. Save some grace for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there. I wanna live my life just like you did, and make the most of my time just like you did. And I wanna make my home up in the sky just like you did. Oh, but until I get there, just save a place for me. Save a place for me. 'Cause I will be there soon. Save a place for me. Save a place for me. I'll be
Megan, you feel like laughing a little bit? Okay, I'll try. My name's Cody Johnson. I'm the campus pastor here at our Emmanuel Church Greenwood campus. And Megan has asked me to serve today and deliver the eulogy. Before I came out here, Megan, I was in the hallway and they asked me to check in with the Indiana State Police chaplain. I'd not met him before. And I walked down the hallway. We were talking about the beginning of service, just kind of making each other's acquaintance. And much to my surprise, my fly was completely down. A solid moment for me professionally. So if you're having a tough moment, just know we're all in this together. In addition to being a staff member here at our Emmanuel Church Greenwood campus, I am also a proud Franklin Community High School graduate. Some of you might know it as the Harvard of the Midwest. That might seem like an odd thing to share with you, being that I'm 35 years old and it's been half a lifetime since I've been in high school. I share that because Aaron Smith was a proud Whiteland High School graduate, and our schools are rivals, bitter rivals. So bitter, in fact, that when Megan and I were discussing the old Whiteland-Franklin rivalry, I confessed that I didn't actually like Whiteland when I was growing up, especially Whiteland wrestlers. Megan, who is a Whiteland softball coach currently, said very quickly, "Well, we don't like you either." It's always nice to know where you stand with people. It's fitting that the Whiteland High School mascot is a warrior. For today, for Trooper Aaron Smith, it's perfect. It's perfect because a warrior is someone who goes to battle. It's someone who puts their foot on the line, ready to risk anything and everything for what he or she believes is important. It's someone who shows up. Someone who's willing to do the work that no one else will do. Someone who is willing to fight tooth and nail for a cause, an idea, or the people in their lives with unmatched ferocity and intensity. A warrior fights. And a warrior fights with strength and with honor. Let's talk about honor. For a warrior, not only do they fight with honor, but they live an honorable life. They are men and women of conviction, integrity, and character. They are people like Aaron Smith. Not only did he live honorably, but he honored God by loving kids at this church so well. He would teach them biblical truth. He would help them understand how to make wise choices. He would teach them right from wrong. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. It's hard to honor God by loving and teaching kids, especially when all they want to do is crawl all over you, listen to you 0% of the time, and occasionally punch you in the crotch. But Aaron did it because it mattered. It mattered to him, it mattered to Megan, and it certainly matters to God. He honored God by keeping and obeying his commands to the highest degree. In John chapter 15, verses 12 and 13, Jesus says, "I command you to love each other in the same way that I love you, and here is how to measure it." I always glossed over that part of the verse prior to this celebration of life. I never really paid attention to it. But what Jesus is saying is, here's how you'll know if you hit the mark. If you want to love people the same way I love you, and you never want to have a doubt in your mind, here's how it's done. And then Jesus says, the greatest love is shown when people lay down their lives for their friends. That is love. That is the purest, most beautiful form of love that exists. And Aaron sought to do this every single day. Being a state trooper, being in the National Guard was a way to follow a commandment from the supreme source of love and joy in his life. It was his way to honor his country and his community and the God he served so eagerly. And honor for this warrior was reciprocated. It was returned to him. When I was at the hospital the night that he was killed, I didn't know what to do, so I just tried to stick close to the family. Just tried to help however I could. And when it was time for Aaron's body to be taken from the hospital, we had to walk down this long hallway. After one of the state troopers gathered us as we came off the elevator on the bottom floor, and they said, "Are you ready to go?" And we all said yes. We made our way down together, and I brought up the rear. What I saw took my breath away. healthcare professionals and staff lining the hallways, nurses, doctors, admin staff, anybody that could come, eyes forward. No mention of any sound whatsoever, paying their respects. No one said a word. And then, after the hallway turned just a little bit, the healthcare workers suddenly became state troopers, police, men and women who served alongside Aaron in law enforcement, who only wanted to pay him what they felt was due: respect, loyalty, and honor. When it was time to go, I started to make my way towards an exit, and a nurse named Sherry could tell that I was lost. Sherry, if you're watching this, thank you for helping me out. She took me back to the front and she asked if I was okay. I said I'd never seen anything like that in my life. The level of love shown to Aaron, the level of honor was unfathomable. All she said was, he deserved it. And see, Sherry, if you're watching, I guess that's where I would disagree with you, because I don't think he deserved it. I don't think he deserved it at all. You see, I think I agree with Iowa Wrestling's head coach, Tom Brands, when he said, the only thing you deserve is what you earn. The honor Aaron Smith has received was not deserved. It was earned, and it was earned every day of his life. But for a warrior, it's not enough to just live with honor. You have to have strength as well. It takes great strength to be a warrior. Now, I'm not just talking about his CrossFit sessions where he's hitting his pull-ups and his deadlifts for time. The strength I'm talking about has nothing to do with getting jacked, although getting jacked is important. I'm talking about Aaron's strength and character, virtue, faith, and selflessness. One of Aaron's strengths was keeping Jesus Christ at the center of his life and his marriage. I know he did this. I have seen it. When I saw Megan the night that Aaron passed away, she was in the elevator. And I didn't know what to do, so I just grabbed her and I just hugged her. When we got off the elevator, with tears in her eyes, she said, I know where he is. He is with God. She didn't say, I think. She didn't say he might be. She knew where he was, without a shadow of a doubt. Do you know the type of strength it takes to have that perspective amidst the most horrific moment of your life? To have the capacity to have that type of faith when everything seems dark and bleak and cold. This faith, this strength will inspire thousands of people. Aaron and Megan making the decision together to put Jesus Christ at the center of their lives when they served kids or when they cultivated their faith together will inspire couples for years to come. This, for Aaron, is what it looks like to leave a legacy of strength. It looks like his dad, the night of the hospital, checking on every person in the room, even though he just lost his son less than 3 hours earlier. It looks like his mom having brutally honest conversations with me about God and still seeing it as an opportunity to grow closer to Jesus through the pain. It looks like these state troopers holding it together through planning meeting after planning meeting for this service, knowing full well that they are putting themselves in the same danger, that same fire that Aaron did every time he put on that uniform and he walked out that door. The way Aaron lived his life and the people he impacted is leaving behind a legacy of strength. Because it's one thing to make yourself strong, but it's another thing entirely to strengthen those around you, to make them better, to be the example, to hold the line. And that's what Aaron did. But what about when the strength runs out? What happens when you break? Because a human being's strength is finite. You are going to break. Grief is an adversary that takes no prisoners. You'll have fantastic days where you'll remember Aaron, his family, his legacy, and you'll be inspired. Other days, you'll cry, you'll be mad, and you'll just want someone to tell you that everything's going to be okay. So what do? What you're doing today is fantastic. Supporting one another, encouraging one another, that's great. But you can do what Aaron did every day of his life. You can put God at the center of your life. You can live for him. You can receive his love. You can go to him when you feel weak, like you can't take one more step. You can have the assurance of the psalmist in Psalm 46, verse 1 and 2, when he says, God is our refuge and our strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear, even if the earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. You don't have to be the strong one today. You don't have to be the one who has to fake being tough in every conversation you have. Break wide open and let God be the strong one for you. If you're hurting today and you feel like you're alone, man, I am so glad to be the one to tell you that that is a lie. The author and the creator of our universe, God himself, is so close. In Psalm 34, verses 17 and 18, it says, the Lord hears his people when they call upon him for help. He rescues them from their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those who are crushed in spirit. I know you're hurting. I know you're crushed. You miss Aaron. You want him here, and I get it. But what you need to know about Aaron is what Megan knew about Aaron the night at the hospital when she said, I know where he is. I know he's with God. Do you know where Aaron is? Because Megan does, and his family does. They know because they believe in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 8, when it says, yes, we are fully confident and we would rather be away from these earthly bodies, for then we will be at home with the Lord. The people who have faith in Jesus Christ know exactly where Aaron Smith is today. Aaron is in heaven today. A place with no suffering, no cancer, no pain, no tears, no loss, no grief, no dementia, no agony. It is a perfect place filled with goodness, peace, love, and joy. And yes, Megan, he might be wearing a Whiteland Wrestling t-shirt. Stop bringing it up. Aaron is at home with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. You can have assurance today that Aaron is good. Man, he's so good. It's hard for us here because we're grieving his loss, but Aaron is united in perfect harmony with Jesus. On days you are hurting, man, take solace in that. Take solace in the fact that the same reassurance and comfort is available to you as well. We were made to be in a relationship with God. God just wants to be with us. But our sinful nature had separated us from God. But luckily for us, God sent a perfect sacrifice to die in our place so that we wouldn't have to spend eternity apart from him. And it was the perfect sacrifice. Jesus Christ lived a perfect, sinless, blameless life, not one wrong step. He had divine power at his disposal, and instead of clinging to it, as we all tend to do when we get a little bit of that power and that influence, he gave it away freely. He chose to be a servant, a slave to mankind. He served just as Aaron served up until his final breath. He would allow himself to be brutally beaten, tortured, mocked, and nailed to a cross where he would breathe his last and he would die. He gave up his life for us, for Aaron. His death on the cross was a ransom payment for the sins of all mankind. That debt that you and I owed for our sins was paid for by Jesus Christ. And to further demonstrate his awesome power, he rose from the grave 3 days later, conquering not only sin, but death itself. This is who Aaron lived for. This is who Aaron put at the center of his existence. This is what allowed Aaron to live with strength and honor, deciding to follow Jesus, trusting him completely. And you can do the same thing today. The family wanted to make sure that each and every single one of you had the opportunity, if you wanted, to make this decision today. If you'd like to make this decision and place your faith in Jesus Christ, there is a way that you can do that right now. I'm going to say a simple prayer, and I would invite you all at this time to bow your heads and take the words I say and make them your own. Speak the words from your heart directly to Jesus, and if you have already prayed this prayer, pray for the person next to you who is considering making this decision for their eternity. You can say something like this: Dear Jesus, I recognize that you just want a relationship with me, that you just want to be with me. I recognize that my sin separated me from you. But Jesus, I thank you today for your perfect death on the cross, which covers the penalty for my sins. Jesus, you were perfect. You didn't have to do that for me or anybody else, but you did out of love. Your death covers the penalty for my sins, and I am grateful. I believe that you rose from the grave 3 days later, conquering sin and conquering death. I place my faith in you. I place my trust in you. Help me to follow you for all the days of my life. It is in your name we pray. Amen. One final thing. There was this movie that came out in 2001. It's called A Knight's Tale. It's an underrated movie. You should check it out. Heath Ledger played a guy named William Thatcher, and it was set in this knight's jousting tournament. And William lies about his noble birth. He gets kicked out of the tournament, and he gets thrown in this thing called a pillory. It's this wooden apparatus where you stick your head and your hands through it, and you're stuck and you can't get out, and ultimately people throw lettuce at you, they mock you, and then they kill you. The situation was grim for William at this point in the film. William's men and one woman would not leave his side. They wouldn't abandon him. This mob is closing in. It's getting worse and it's getting more dangerous. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd when the mob realizes that Prince Edward is there. It's a shocking point in the movie. He walks up to William and he considers his position, and then he looks at his men. And he says, "Your men love you. If I knew nothing else about you, that would be enough." It is the perfect quote for Aaron. But what can you know about Aaron Smith? I mean, really know, based on the love that has been shown over the course of the past week by family, friends, the military, these state troopers, the state. What can you really know about Aaron Smith? Well, I think you can know that Aaron was a man that loved God, and he was loved by God. I think you can know that he's leaving behind a legacy of strength. I think you can know that he was a man who earned every bit of honor that he ever received. And I think you can know that he lived and fought and died as a warrior. Thank you.
There's a peace I've come to know, though my heart and flesh may fail. There's an anchor for my soul, and I can say it is well. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God. There's a day that's drawing near when this darkness breaks to light and the shadows disappear, and my faith shall be my eyes, 'cause Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God, fall on my knees and rise. I will rise, and I hear the voice of many angels sing, worthy is the Lamb, and I hear the cry of every longing heart, worthy is the Lamb, and I hear the voice of many angels sing, worthy is the Lamb, and I hear the cry of every longing heart, worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God, fall on my knees and rise. I will rise. I will rise.
Mercy, peace, and love be to all of you in abundance. After this benediction, please remain seated, and you will be dismissed by the ushers row by row. I invite you to pray. Almighty God, our Creator and Redeemer, we have gathered this day for the noble cause of rendering honor and remembering the life and service of Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith. We have been surrounded by profound love, the love of Aaron's family and friends, the love of the Indiana State Police family and law enforcement colleagues from near and far, and colleagues of the other first responder professions, the love and support of our community, and even from across the state. The love of Aaron's faith community, and ultimately, your divine love and grace, being proclaimed through your word of comfort and eternal promise. After this day of mourning concludes, we beseech your divine blessing upon our hearts and minds, as grief will surely be experienced upon every awareness of Aaron's physical absence. When we do, enable us to recognize that this is the experience of our love for Aaron. May it remind us of his love for us and his community. Console our hearts with the assurance of the knowledge of your forgiveness of sins, the ultimate day of our resurrection, and our life everlasting in your eternal kingdom. I pray that you bless our going forth from this sacred moment, to carry forward our lives of service with stalwart determination to hold high the legacy of service, which Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith has now entrusted into our keeping. Holy God, holy Almighty, holy Immortal, have mercy upon us and hear our prayer. Amen.
We're live this morning as we continue our coverage, remembering the life of Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith. Live images right now inside of the Emmanuel Church in Greenwood in Johnson County. For the past 1 hour and 45 minutes, we have been taken on a journey. On the journey, remembering the life of Aaron Smith, who took the ordinary as an Indiana State Police Trooper, as a husband, as a friend, as a brother, as a son, and made it extraordinary. What you're seeing right now are the images in silence as police from all across the country, all across our state, all across central Indiana are now filing by the casket. This is a part of the symbolism we'll see today as they pay the respects. Usually this happens at the beginning of a ceremony, but for this ceremony, they are doing things a little different. They want to do this at the end. Regardless of when this happens, the men and women in blue, in green, in brown, the law enforcement community today stands shoulder to shoulder with the family of Aaron Smith.
And it's really incredible, Raphael. We've seen from our crews there, Shea Goodpasture, who was out there seeing law enforcement file into the church here. There are people representing departments, state troopers from all across the country who have come here today to Johnson County to honor this man who served his community. And Governor Holcomb said it. He just thought he was doing his job. He did things that he thought were ordinary. But to us, hearing these stories, and to those around him, he was anything but ordinary. He was a man of service, a man who cared deeply about those around him. He always showed up. He was there for his community, and he paid the ultimate price, and we're forever grateful.
His kindergarten teacher, Lois Thompson, reached out to her through my wife, who teaches there in the Clark Pleasant School Corporation in Whiteland. Lois Thompson remembers the 6-year-old who once wrote about wanting to be a police officer, and Ms. Thompson wants to share on this Friday morning that she remembers, in her words, his sweet spirit. She also points out that he signed her yearbook without the letter M, so it looks like he wrote it Adam Sith and not Aaron Smith. As a 6-year-old, learning his letter is a difficult thing, but nonetheless, she remembers that sweet boy in her class so many years ago, a young man that would go on to graduate from Whiteland High School, become a warrior. The Warrior is the mascot there at Whiteland High School, then of course joined state police in 2018 and become a warrior of not only public safety, but also a warrior of giving. And Lauren, just a couple of weeks ago, he was in your in-laws' home on their yard after some storms had hit. He just showed up out of the blue and said, "Let me help."
Yes, so you all probably remember the tornado that hit the Travis Road area in Johnson County. And I went out there to do a story, and this was with my in-laws, my husband's aunt and uncle. Just put out a note on Facebook saying, hey, we have a lot of damage here, we could use some help. They happened to go to the same CrossFit gym as Aaron and Megan, but they didn't know them that well. They were acquaintances at the gym there, but it didn't matter. Aaron and Megan just showed up that day with some other people, and they were just ready to help. They told me that they were there 5 to 6 hours working. He was helping a young boy there take down a fence, showing him how to use a hammer, just really taking him under his wing. And then when he was done, he went to work that day. For many of us, it would be easy to say, I have work, I work this overnight shift, I don't have time to do this.
And those are the
Those are the pictures
from that day, right?
Yeah,
there,
that is my husband's aunt there standing with Aaron and Megan, and she just had back surgery. That's why she's wearing a back brace. And they said that didn't even matter. She was raking leaves. She was help moving sticks to a pile. So they worked hard that day. People that are really strangers to them, just acquaintances at the same gym. And they asked, what are you doing here? Why are you guys here? And he said, why wouldn't we be here? And you heard the governor quote that during his speech today. They were just people that would just show up out of the blue, no questions asked. They didn't tell anybody. I talked to Marcy Newman, my husband's aunt, this morning, and she tells me that they went to the visitation yesterday, just down the road there on Stone's Crossing. She says they waited for more than 4 hours to pay their respects, and she says they would have waited 10 or more hours if they had to. They wanted to be there for Megan, and they wanted to be there to thank his dad for raising a guy who would just show up at their house in their time of need. And they hope that sharing that story, it made him stand a little prouder that day in the visitation line. And they tell me that he didn't even know that they went there that day, but he wasn't surprised. He said, that was Aaron. This is what he does.
We can spend hours telling these stories as we continue our live coverage, remembering the life and legacy of Trooper Aaron Smith. We are inside Emmanuel Church there in Greenwood this morning as that funeral, again, another hour and 45 minutes today. What you're seeing right now is the officers filing by the casket. This is part of the symbolic gesture paying honor to the officer who is there. Following this moment, all the officers will be going out to their vehicles and will be watching from a distance as they get ready to follow the casket as it makes its journey to the Heroes of Public Safety section at Crown Hill Cemetery. Before it gets to the cemetery here in Indianapolis, it will make a number of stops. Among those stops, as you can see our images now from Sky Camp 6 outside the church, among the stops that the casket will make, the family will make, will be Whiteland High School. It will stop there to where he played, not only did he wrestle, but he also played football. Number 29, the linebacker. A key part of his life was Johnson County, was the Whiteland Franklin community, the Bargersville community, the Center Grove community. So very integral in that community. There's a garrison flag on US 31. In fact, a number of our friends are still asking, why is there a flag right now?
Stretched across the highway.
Stretched across US 31, and that's to honor this officer. And so the casket, the family, the friends, family will go through that, make a right there onto Whiteland High School. They will pass by the high school, and then there will be what we know as the 1042.
That's right. That's where they'll do the final call. Again, that's all happening at Whiteland High School. And State Police, they want you to know, if you're watching this at home, maybe you live there in Johnson County, or if you live or work in the area or even Marion County, you are invited to come out and line this route today, not only to honor this fallen hero, but also just to show the family, his wife Megan, his bride, his parents, his siblings, his family and friends, and law enforcement from all the country that we care, and this community cares about his sacrifice and his honor. So as Raphael mentioned, they'll be leaving the church here today. That's Emmanuel Church on Stones Crossing Road. They'll be heading west right there to State Road 135 and then south through the Bargersville area onto Whiteland Road. After they get to Whiteland Road, they'll turn onto US 31 North, go under the Garrison flag, get the 1042 call, and then they'll go past his neighborhood. That's right by Craig Park, you know, the roundabout there in Greenwood. That's the area where he grew up. So if you're out there in that area, that'd be a great place to stand and show your respect.
It is a very busy intersection on any given day, so it's kind of a messy roundabout, so keep that in mind. That it's kind of messy. And Lauren, also we should point out to folks that may be traveling or heading out right now to either northbound or southbound on I-65, trying to get off on the Worthsville exit or the Greenwood exit, that they may, County Line Road exit, that they may encounter that those exits may be closed to allow for the procession.
Yeah, so we know, Raphael, as people are lining up there, you can see them from our Skycam shot, that they'll be traveling, following, but one by one behind each other, with the coach then following them. So this procession could take a while. We'll be keeping you updated. But if you are driving through the area, know that they'll be using Emerson Avenue through Greenwood up to about the hospital. So that's why they'll be closing off the exits off I-65 and County Line and the exit off Main Street in Greenwood today. Worthsville Road, Whiteland Road later today, I think, would be good options, but just avoid that area if you can. So we want to make you aware of that. From there, it'll go into Indianapolis.
Today it's about patience and honoring a good life. We have crews throughout central Indiana, throughout Johnston and Marion counties, as we cover this key moment in our state's history. He, the 49th state police trooper to die in the line of duty. Our good friend Caitlin Kendall was in the ceremony as she watched and listened to what was said inside. Caitlin, give us a sense of what you're seeing, what you're hearing. As we're inside, we're seeing the filing of the officers, but outside, they're getting ready for that casket to come out.
Yeah, Raphael and Lauren, I spent most of the ceremony inside. It was a somber day, but one filled with so much gratitude. You guys can see after that file by, the officers are coming outside to line right here in front of the coach. Of course, they will stand and salute as soon as Officer Smith's body is brought out here in the casket and taken up to the coach. All of the officers here from all over the country, you guys mentioned it, but we see officers from all over the state, some beyond state lines, New York, Mississippi, Utah, Minnesota, just a couple of them to name a few of them. Dozens of people, obviously hundreds of officers here to support Officer Smith and his family. Thousands of people were in attendance today. Family, fellow brothers and sisters in arms, and of course community members were out here to honor the officer who laid it all on the line. Now, as I sat inside the service today, Officer Smith was being remembered not just as a trooper, but as a sergeant in the National Guard, a husband, a brother, and a friend. But the number one message that was heard loud and clear today was that Officer Smith loved God and he loved to serve his community. He leaves behind this legacy of service. You can see these officers are lining up here, getting ready to bring Officer Smith out. Each of the officers, you'll notice, has a white carnation pinned underneath their badge upside down. That white carnation representing a good and humble service of Officer Smith. Now, on that white carnation, there's a red dot. That red dot obviously representing the bloodshed for Officer Smith. His family is getting ready to make their way out of the church service here. Several family members were in attendance today. His cousin even spoke and shared several messages from family members and friends who just talked about the amazing man that Officer Smith was. Something that I learned today that kind of brought tears to my eyes was the conversations he had with people and his pure love that he had for people and for giving back to people. You know, his cousin talked a bit about how, you know, when they were kids, they used to play video games, and Officer Smith, you know, his winning was seeing other people win. And he talked about how he continued that legacy into his career, and he wanted to protect people and he wanted to serve his community, and not just with the uniform on, but outside of the uniform. You can see even coming out right now, some politicians. We have the Richmond mayors in attendance, of course. Several people from all across the state and the country are here to support Officer Smith. Now, once they finish this file by from the casket, everyone will come out here. They'll stand and salute, as I mentioned, and they will, of course, wait for Officer Smith's body to be carried out. But again, very emotional day, but one that was filled with some laughter from bits and pieces, sharing some of the memories that people had for Officer Aaron Smith, but also just the sheer gratitude that people say they have for him and the entire country has for him. Obviously killed in the line of duty, but you know, the governor talked a bit about how when he signed up for this job, he knew what he was getting himself into, but he willingly took that step, and he wanted to serve his country. He wanted to serve his community, and he was willing to put his life on the line if that meant protecting people who needed to be protected. We'll have just a few more people coming out now. Of course, several law enforcement agencies, families making their way out as we speak. They will line up and they'll get ready for Officer Smith's body to be taken out. Raphael and Lauren?
I was wondering if you could get a little personal with me, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. You know, I have a couple of family members that work for NYPD. I have a sister that works for Miami PD. You have a father who works locally, who retired law enforcement. I just wonder how you prepare as someone who takes great pride in what her dad did and does. He's still very active. Just how do you prepare for moments like this? Because for the families, this is a tough time. For those who have lost someone or who have to send someone off on their shift in a couple of hours or whose loved one is working right now, the fear of getting that call, despite the fact that these folks say, I want to get out of my vehicle and respond to 911, is immense. Just how do you put that in perspective as you look at your reporter's notebook?
You know, Raphael, it's hard to put things like this into perspective. Growing up with a dad in law enforcement, every time they put on that uniform and walk out that door, you think about the risk. It's not just the law enforcement officer who signs up for the job, but it's the family as well. And so knowing that risk every single day and knowing whether they're going to come home or you're going to get that phone call, it's a fear that every person, every family member, and every officer has in their minds, in the back of their minds. But you know that at the end of the day, they want to do this. They want to serve their community, and that's what they care about most. So nothing can really prepare you for things like this. You sit in them. I've sat in a number of these even as a kid, nothing can really prepare you for these types of things. But the one thing that you can kind of rely on and lean on is each other in these types of situations, and knowing that there's people who are going to continue Officer Smith's legacy, and they're going to continue to put on that uniform and protect and serve their community.
And Caitlin, we're so appreciative of everyone's service, all the people there behind you today, all those who are serving, who have served in the past. I do want to share with you guys, a woman named Carla Coffey wrote on my Facebook page this morning. Her husband has been a state trooper, she says, for 29 years. She says that they see things that the world doesn't see, like telling a mother that their child was killed in a crash, seeing a victim of a crime, seeing a person take their last breath. And she says the loved ones see them come home with that look on their face, knowing that they've seen these things, but you don't know really what to say to them. But she says last night she just watched her husband as he polished his boots, he cleaned his brass, and he washed his car so that he could be ready for today to lay one of his fellow heroes to rest. And this woman, Carla, on my Facebook page just wanted to send her condolences to the family and to Megan. She knows that it's not easy, and you never know when you could be in this position, but she says that they are heroes, and that's why they do what they do.
Our live images continue from Skycam 6 over Emmanuel Church in Greenwood in Johnson County after the funeral services for State Police Trooper Aaron Smith. We've been getting all kinds of perspectives as to what is happening. I want to share with you as well that I spoke to Jeremy Parra. He's the eldest brother of the four of the band of brothers, eldest brother to Aaron Smith. He wants all of you to know the following, and this is from my reporter's notebook. On behalf of my family, we are completely lost, he says. This depth of loss is unimaginable. Our hearts go out to Megan. She will always have four brothers. She will always have brothers-in-law. We love you, Megan, and we love her. The words of one of the many brothers, of the three brothers from Aaron Smith on this day. And it's hard to read sometimes because, you know, when you're taking notes, you sense the heaviness of it all. Mm-hmm. And so it is a heavy moment for them, but they appreciate all of you and your support. The governor was among the many people who, again, as he is the executive of the state, and he said that on behalf of the 6.8 million Hoosiers, he had a message for the family.
Yeah, I feel like I was so moved by a lot of the governor's words today, especially when he said, you know, we've been saying he has fallen, but he believes that he has risen. I think that there was almost like a gasp in the audience at that point. He had a lot to say about his service, both as a state trooper and as a member of the Indiana National Guard. Let's take a listen to what Governor Holcomb had to say a little bit earlier today.
Those who wear the uniform are willing and even wantingly making for us every minute of the day. Sprinting toward danger is not natural for most. In fact, it's reflexive to pull back or to seek inside a protective shell. But it's in the very DNA of our incredible Indiana State Police officers and all of their brethren in public safety and law enforcement, to protect and to serve, and to move forward into the fray where it is unraveling, where seconds save and take lives. It's why I plead that we never take for granted the kind of humble Hoosier heroism Aaron displayed, not just that day, time and time again.
The governor says that Aaron helped to stiffen and strengthen that thin blue line, and he was always looking for ways to serve his community.
And that he earned our eternal gratitude. And for every person that serves in some capacity, they do deserve our gratitude, because they are obviously on the front lines, making sure, keeping us, as they often say, the sentinels against evil. Our live pictures continue as we are again outside of Emmanuel Church. We are waiting for the casket to emerge, and once the casket emerges, there'll be a brief ceremony there. Caitlin Kendall is among the crowd there. She will bring us and explain to us what will be happening in moments. But once they leave the church, we'll probably take, what do you think, from this location to Whiteland, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes for all this to happen, with all the street closures. There will be a garrison flag to greet the family on their way to Crown Hill. You will also notice today that often when things happen, movements happen, we will pipe down. Because in silence there is power. And we want to make sure that we bring you all the images when those are appropriate. We're talking now because nothing per se is getting in the way of what's happening, and those officers are waiting for the casket to come out. I'm wondering if Caitlin Kendall is with us yet. Caitlin, just want to get your perspective as we see the sea of law enforcement officers standing by to welcome the casket to leaving the church. Just your impressions at this moment.
Yeah, I can tell you something that kind of brings me to tears every time we do things like this, and as horrific as that sounds to have to do this over and over again, is that the officers, they're obviously standing so strong. You know, oftentimes people say that officers put on this shield, they have their coat of armors, but something that the pastor talked about today, and I feel several people who are here today, several law enforcement officers who are here today are leaning into what the pastor said, and he said, it's okay to break. It's okay to bring tears to your eyes. It's okay to not be strong. It's okay to not have that armor on. And I saw plenty of officers shedding tears today. Many are standing here. Obviously, it's hot out here. They're in their full armor right now, just ready to honor their fellow trooper who laid it all on the line. It's been an emotional day, and something about seeing officers tear up, something about seeing, you know, fellow brothers and sisters in arms tear up brings you to tears. You can see on the left side over here, there are officers from all over the state, all over the country. That is where most of the officers are standing. But over here to the right, there's a special little section here. Every single officer is an Indiana State Police trooper. Every trooper standing here obviously worked with Trooper Smith, worked with him, knew him, some who didn't even get an opportunity to work with Trooper Smith, but all of the Indiana State Police troopers are standing on this side. Many of their wives and husbands are with them today, standing there to not only be there for Trooper Smith and his family, but to be there for their loved one who obviously puts on that uniform every single day. Now, when here in just a few moments, the family's saying their final goodbyes, they will come out behind the casket. The casket will be taken to the coach. Following the casket, you will hear drums. It's a drum brigade, just kind of honoring Trooper Smith and thanking him for his service, thanking him for his sacrifice. Something that was mentioned inside the service today that I think would kind of speak to what's happening right now is several people talked about how Trooper Smith wouldn't want all of this. He wouldn't have wanted all of this. He wouldn't have wanted, you know, all of the service that's happening, all the people talking about it, all the posts on social media, all the talk about him, his name being used as much, because they said he was just humble. He did this every single day. It was his job. He wanted to do his job. He didn't need the recognition for it. And Trooper Smith's cousin who spoke said he had a conversation with his wife Megan that said, she said he wouldn't want any of this, but that makes me want to do it even more. So she's happy that we're here She wants her husband's name to be heard loud and clear. She doesn't want Trooper Smith to be forgotten. Just the final moments, they're just doing a couple things inside, and they will bring out Trooper Smith. You'll see the full honor guard will be out here with all of the flags displayed, and we should see an Army flag. Again, Trooper Smith also in the National Guard as a sergeant. So you can see the flags are getting put into place right now. They will walk and escort the casket to the coach, and then that coach, of course, will take him on his procession, making several stops underneath the garrison flag that we mentioned, stopping at Whiteland High School, stopping near his childhood home, and then before his final resting point at Crown Hill Cemetery. So once these flags get into position, I'll kind of get quiet here so that you guys can just feel the emotion. It's quiet out here. No one is talking. Everyone is just standing, waiting to be standing in salute. Of course, the honor guard will ask them to all stand in salute when Trooper Smith is escorted out in his casket and carried to his hearse.
On this Friday, we commemorate a hometown hero. If you like helping people, if you enjoy the love of friends and family, if you believe in respect and dignity, then you know Aaron Smith. This is what we're doing today. We're honoring one of our own, the very best among us. And so on these occasions, we do this because it just reminds us of who we are, what we love, what we do, and what we can do because others do sacrifice for us. You're seeing the people that are standing shoulder to shoulder at this very moment, who when you call 911, they will show up and they will serve. And so on these moments and on these days, we here at WRTV, we thank those who serve, wherever they may be, whatever shift you may work, whatever your post may be, we thank you for what you do. And today the community is saying thank you to this young man at 33 years old who died in the line of duty last week, being remembered not only by his own family, but his brothers and sisters across the country, across Indiana, right here in Greenwood, USA.
Mm-hmm. I hope our drone doesn't.
We continue our live team coverage of the funeral and the remembrance of Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith on this Friday, the trooper who died in the line of duty. Police officers from around the country, from around Indiana, standing by to escort him to his final resting place at Crown Hill Cemetery in the Heroes of Public Safety section at the cemetery here on the north side of Indianapolis. Sky Camp 6 above Emmanuel Church, where a ceremony was held in his honor for about an hour and 45 minutes.
The casket's getting ready to exit the church here. This is in Johnson County on Stones Crossing Road, where Aaron and his wife Megan served in the children's ministry. We're going to listen in now as the casket leaves the building, and they'll have a ceremony here outside before all of law enforcement will get into their cars and we'll start the procession.
You're watching WRTV.
Yes. All of the officers have just been dismissed after Trooper Smith's body was just put inside of the coach. Of course, that coach will make its way through the procession, making stops at Whiteland High School to go under the garrison flag. It'll also stop near his childhood area. Of course, he grew up in Johnson County, before taking him to his final resting place at Crown Hill Cemetery. All of the officers and troopers will walk to their cars, get in their cars, and get ready for that procession. The family will then be escorted, and they'll also sit in Indiana State Police cars where they will be escorted with a fellow trooper. Of course, everyone out here to honor Trooper Smith. Trooper Smith's coach will never be left alone. Someone will always be with Trooper Smith's casket and with his body until he is laid at his final resting point. Many troopers out here today in tears, all of course here to support one another, to lean on one another, and to show each other that they're here, and they're here if any other fellow officer or trooper needs it.
There will be waves of emotion today. We saw that inside of Emmanuel Church there in Greenwood as words of kindness, words of love, words of comfort were shared with the family and the officers. We were reminded the grief will continue way beyond this moment, but this is just one of the many places that we will feel the raw emotion of this moment in our history, Lord. And so from here, now they move to Whiteland, where the family will feel some comfort because that's where he went to school. That is where he got his high school diploma. That is where he wrestled. That is where he played football, number 29. And we heard about the rivalry, of course, that he had with Franklin. He lived in Franklin up until his death. And despite that rivalry, which is all about young stuff, he loved his community as a whole. He loved his state as a whole. And so while as a young man, he wore orange and blue, he loved his entire state, all the people served.
All right, well, we do have Rachel Wilkerson out there outside of Whiteland High School on US 31, where a really special moment is going to take place as the procession reaches her. Rachel, tell us what you're seeing, where you are right now, and what we can expect in the next hour or so.
Yeah, Lauren and Raphael, dozens of people have lined US 31 to pay their respects for Trooper Aaron Smith and to show support to his wife, Megan. As you mentioned, this is Trooper Smith's hometown. We're near his alma mater, where he wrestled, he played football. He also graduated in 2008. We've seen several of his classmates here today. They shared stories with us about the fun times that they not only had in high school, but it carried over into their adulthood. And they said that they're going to miss their friend so much. Trooper Smith has been described to us as selfless, caring, a man with a servant heart. We've seen that, and we've shared the stories of how he's not only saved people, but how he's touched everyone that he's met. That's why these community members that you see here say it was so important for them to line the highway as Trooper Smith and hundreds of law enforcement members in the procession make their way here. The funeral coach will pause at this garrison flag that's being held by 2 fire trucks. The garrison flag honors Trooper Smith's commitment to the community and the sacrifice that he made. This is also where we will hear the 1042 signaling the end of tour for Trooper Aaron Smith. It's the final call of service, an emotional moment for his family, brothers and sisters in blue, and the community. And people here tell me that their prayers are with Megan and the family. And when asked what they would like to say to Aaron, the answer was thank you. Thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. Let's take a listen to what some of his friends had to say.
He was just an all-around great guy, just kind, loving to everyone, cared about everyone, took the time to say hi, give hugs. We were parking space buddies is what we always said. We parked next to each other. He would always wait in the mornings for me or make sure I got to school okay and after. And he was just what everybody describes him as, just an all-around great person. That's who he was, and we'll miss him terribly.
What does it mean for you to stand here today?
To honor him, not only just Aaron, but be out here for other servicemen and everything. We should all be out here just giving our respects of what they deserve. So I'm just proud to be able to be here with my fellow classmates and everyone else.
We were in shop class together. He would always joke around and like to make us laugh. He lost his tooth early on, and he had this retainer, and he'd always flip it out to make us laugh in shop class. His locker was right down from mine, and he was always just gave the best hugs.
give the best hugs, make them laugh. Those are memories that they said that they will cherish for the rest of their lives. They will keep Megan in their prayers, and they will forever remember Trooper Aaron Smith as a hero. Lauren and Raphael.
Rachel, thank you so much. Rachel Wilkerson, live there in Whiteland in Johnson County. Laughter on these days, on occasion, helps things. I want to share a quick story with you that Jeremy, his eldest brother, I have these M&M packs, Lauren, on the anchor desk, not because I'm hungry, but Jeremy would tell me that he and Aaron would often, they could just slam down a 5-pound bag of peanut M&Ms. And I asked, was there any particular color? No, Aaron would eat them all. Those are the things, the little things that on a day like today allows people to breathe. So it's quite a moment for our state today. Our coverage will continue throughout the next couple of hours. We're going to wait for the hearse to arrive there at the Garrison Flag and pick up our coverage in just a few moments.
That's right. If you're watching this right now and you're in the area, you're welcome to go outside. They're getting ready to leave the church right now, and they'll make that procession from Stones Crossing Road down to Whiteland Road to that Garrison Flag. And we'll pick back up coverage once they get in that area.
On behalf of all of us here at WRTV, good afternoon.